The shrapnel fragment tore through Captain Crispin's shoulder as he dove behind the twisted remains of the communications console. Blood seeped through his uniform, warm against the cold metal of Cragwell Station's command deck. Around him, emergency lights painted everything in harsh red strokes, while the station groaned under another Morde assault. 6 months ago, he'd never heard of the Veilen Confederation. Now their desperate plea had become humanity's greatest triumph. The message had arrived through quantum channels on a Tuesday morning that changed everything. Crispin remembered Admiral Aldrich standing over the translation matrix at Bramford Command, his weathered face grim as the alien script resolved into desperate words. "People of Earth, we need help. The Morde Collective threatens all free life. We have tried everything. Our weapons fail. Our strategies crumble. Only you have shown such relentless ingenuity. Please respond." What followed were technical specifications, tactical assessments, biological data, all of it incomplete, flawed, lacking the precise mathematical elegance that defined human warfare. The Veilen had fought valiantly for decades, but their approach remained fundamentally limited. They thought in terms of harmony, adaptation, biological symbiosis. Humans thought in terms of victory. Another explosion rocked the station. Crispin pressed against the bulkhead, feeling vibrations travel through the superstructure like a massive heartbeat. Through the shattered viewport, he could see Morde vessels hanging in space like metallic locusts, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with that sickening purple light. The enemy had evolved since their first encounters with human forces. Where once they'd relied on predictable swarm tactics, now they adapted, learned, grew stronger with each engagement. Their quantum-linked shields had become nearly impenetrable to conventional weapons, their plasma weapons more focused and devastating than anything the Veilen had ever faced. Nearly impenetrable to conventional weapons. Crispin smiled through the pain, remembering Dr. Rosalind's breakthrough 3 weeks ago. While the Veilen had spent decades trying to harmonize with Morde technology, seeking some biological compatibility, humans had done what humans always did. They had analyzed, dissected, and systematically dismantled the enemy's greatest strength. The shield harmonics followed mathematical patterns. Elegant, yes, but ultimately as predictable as a musical score. The Veilen had tried to sing along with the melody. Humans had composed a symphony that would shatter every note. The phase shift weapons were humanity's answer to alien impossibility. Footsteps echoed through the corridor outside. Crispin recognized the uneven gait, Captain Thyxara of the Veilen liaison team, her scaled feet producing that distinctive clicking sound against metal deck plates. She'd been wounded in the first wave, a deep gash across her left temple that leaked pale blue fluid. Thyxara appeared in the doorway, her amber eyes wide with the kind of desperate hope that Crispin had learned to recognize in alien faces. Her skin showed the stress patterns typical of her species, darker blue bands along her neck and arms that intensified with fear or exhaustion. Despite her injury, she moved with predatory grace, though her movements carried an uncertainty that human soldiers never displayed. "The Morde have breached sectors 7 through 12, she reported, her voice carrying that musical quality that made Veilen's speech sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Commander Roderick estimates we have perhaps 20 minutes before they reach the central hub. Our bioships are failing. We cannot adapt quickly enough to their new attack patterns." Crispin nodded, pushing himself upright despite the fire in his shoulder. Human endurance, another advantage the galaxy had learned to respect. "Our reinforcements. The flagship Starhold's dream is engaging their command vessel. Admiral Aldrich reports the disruption signal is having significant effect. The Morde formations are already showing instability." Her amber eyes reflected something between awe and disbelief. "In 3 hours of human tactics, we have achieved more disruption than in 3 years of Veilen warfare. Through the damaged console, Crispin could hear radio chatter from the battle, human voices tight with concentration and controlled aggression. Alien harmonics from Veilen crews struggling to keep pace with human tactical innovations. And underneath it all, the strange static that accompanied Morde communications, as their hive mind processed the unprecedented chaos that human warfare had introduced to their perfect order. The enemy's greatest strength had become their most exploitable weakness, something only human strategic thinking had recognized. "Tell me about the quantum resonance chamber," Crispin said, pulling up tactical displays on his wrist communicator. "Can your people maintain the biological interface?" Thyxara's expression shifted, those amber eyes narrowing, as she calculated possibilities with the methodical precision her species had learned from human military advisors. "The primary systems are intact, but without direct connection to the station's main power grid. We don't need the main grid." Crispin was already moving toward the maintenance shafts, his mind racing through contingencies that no alien strategist had ever conceived. The emergency fusion cells should provide enough power for a single burst transmission. Standard human engineering redundancy. Understanding dawned across Thyxara's features like sunrise over alien oceans. Her species had evolved on a world with twin suns, and their emotional expressions carried that duality. But increasingly, Crispin had noticed, they also carried something else. Admiration, the kind of respectful fear that weaker civilizations developed when exposed to superior tactical thinking. You want to broadcast the disruption signal directly into their hive network, not just broadcast it. Crispin paused at the shaft entrance, looking back at his alien ally with the confident smile that had become legendary among non-human forces. Amplify it through their own quantum links. Turn their greatest advantage into their greatest vulnerability. It's a fundamentally human approach. Find the enemy's strength, then make it destroy them. The maintenance tunnels were narrow, designed for automated repair drones rather than organic beings. Crispin squeezed through spaces barely wide enough for his human frame, while Thyxara struggled with the confined passages, her more cumbersome biology creating difficulties that human flexibility easily avoided. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows as they crawled through the station's mechanical arteries. The smell of ozone and burned circuitry filled the air, mixed with something else, the peculiar metallic scent that accompanied Morde technology. Their biomechanical systems leaked trace elements that human sensors had been the first to identify and catalog, mapping weaknesses that alien sensory organs had never detected. "Do you really believe this will work?" Thyxara asked as they emerged into the quantum chamber's antechamber. Her voice carried undertones that human ears couldn't fully parse, but Crispin had learned to recognize doubt when he heard it, the same doubt he'd heard from dozens of alien species who had witnessed human tactical innovation for the first time. "I believe in human ingenuity," Crispin replied with the quiet confidence that had become his trademark. "We've never encountered a problem we couldn't solve through superior thinking and relentless application of force." The quantum resonance chamber stretched before them like the interior of a vast musical instrument. Harmonic crystals lined the walls, their surfaces reflecting light in patterns that shifted with the station's fluctuating power levels. At the chamber's heart sat the transmission array, an elegant fusion of human engineering and Veilen biotechnology, though the truly innovative components were entirely of human design. Crispin began initializing the startup sequence with the precise efficiency that marked human technical expertise, while Thyxara interfaced with the biological components, her scaled hands dancing over control surfaces with movements that had become increasingly coordinated under human training. Their partnership had evolved from necessity into something approaching functional competence, though the tactical innovations remained entirely human in origin. The Morde were closer now. Crispin could feel it through the station's superstructure, that peculiar vibration that accompanied their movement, like the footsteps of metal giants. Their boarding parties moved through Cragwell Station's corridors with mechanical precision, methodically securing each sector before advancing to the next. They had never faced human defensive strategies. Power coupling is stable, Thyxara reported. Biological interface responding normally. But Crispin, she paused, and when she looked at him, her amber eyes held the kind of desperate faith that Crispin had learned to expect from aliens facing impossible odds. If this fails, they'll trace the signal back to us. This chamber will become a target. Crispin's hands never paused in their work, but his voice carried the unshakable conviction that had inspired confidence in alien allies across a dozen star systems. Then we better make sure it doesn't fail. Human plans don't fail, they evolve until they succeed. The first phase shift weapon had been fired from the destroyer Greyford 3 weeks ago during the Battle of Blackmore. Crispin remembered watching the tactical display as Commander Edmund executed the experimental firing sequence, targeting a moored scout vessel that had been harassing supply convoys. The enemy's shields hadn't just failed, they'd imploded. The moored ship had simply ceased to exist, not destroyed in any conventional sense, but phase-shifted out of local spacetime. Its quantum signature scattered across multiple dimensional frequencies. For the first time since the war began, humanity had demonstrated a weapon that could cut through previously impenetrable defenses, like a blade through silk. While the Morde had adapted their shield harmonics within days, making individual phase shift weapons less effective, they had failed to anticipate the next stage of human tactical evolution. What they couldn't adapt to was having their own quantum network turned against them. A strategy that required the kind of systematic analytical thinking that only human minds had proven capable of executing. Transmission array is online, Crispin announced. Beginning signal amplification sequence. The chamber filled with harmonics as the system powered up, not sound in any conventional sense, but vibrations that seemed to resonate in the bones, in the spaces between thoughts. Thyxara's skin showed the stress patterns again, darker bands appearing along her neck, as she monitored the biological components with the careful attention that human oversight had taught her to maintain. Through the quantum links, Crispin could sense the vast network of Morde consciousness spreading across the system like a web of malevolent intelligence. Individual ships pulsed with shared thoughts, coordinated movements that flowed from a central awareness distributed across thousands of vessels. It was impressive in its way, terrifying but fundamentally flawed. No hive mind could match the creative unpredictability of human tactical thinking. Signal lock achieved, Thyxara reported, her voice tight with the kind of controlled excitement that aliens exhibited when witnessing human capabilities in action. I'm reading quantum resonance patterns across their entire fleet structure. Crispin, this is their whole network. If we can disrupt it, we can turn their unity into chaos. Crispin's finger hovered over the final activation control, and for a moment he savored the anticipation, another human victory about to unfold. Are you ready to witness human warfare at its finest? Thyxara's amber eyes met his, and in that moment, Crispin saw more than just alien features. He saw the kind of respectful awe that had become common among non-human species who had worked alongside human forces. Her hand moved to cover his on the control surface, scaled skin warm against human flesh. Together, she said simply, though they both knew who would be providing the tactical brilliance. They pressed the activation control together. The quantum chamber erupted with light as the amplified disruption signal propagated through the Morde network at faster-than-light speeds. Crispin felt the transmission as a physical force, harmonics that seemed to reach into his nervous system and play his spine like a violin string, a sensation that Thyxara appeared to find overwhelming, her entire body trembling with the resonance. Through the tactical displays, they watched the signal spread across the enemy fleet like digital wildfire. The first ships to be affected began moving erratically, their perfect formations breaking apart as individual vessels lost connection to the hive mind. What had been coordinated became chaotic, purposeful became random. Human tactical innovation had shattered their greatest strength in minutes. The Morde command ship, a massive biomechanical construct that had been directing the assault on Cragwell Station, suddenly veered away from its target, its weapons firing at empty space as its navigation systems received conflicting input from a consciousness that had never learned to cope with human unpredictability. "It's working," Thyxara breathed, watching as more enemy vessels began exhibiting erratic behavior. "Their quantum links are destabilizing across the entire network. I have never seen anything like this. The precision, the elegance, only human minds could have conceived such perfection." But the Morde weren't defenseless. Even as their network fractured, individual ships began implementing emergency protocols, isolating themselves from the disrupted quantum links and reverting to autonomous operation. They were adapting, learning, finding ways to minimize the damage, even as their coordination collapsed. They were fighting like humans now, but they weren't humans. Crispin was already implementing the second phase of the strategy, the phase that no alien mind had anticipated. While the enemy fleet struggled with internal chaos, the third fleet moved into attack formation with the kind of precise coordination that had made human military doctrine legendary across the galaxy. Through the communications array, Crispin heard Admiral Aldrich's voice cutting through the tactical chatter. "All ships, execute Battle Plan 7. Target the command vessels first. Without coordination, the smaller ships will be vulnerable. Show them why humanity rules the stars." The next few minutes unfolded like a masterpiece of human tactical artistry. Human ships moved with mechanical precision, while Veilen vessels struggled to keep pace with the complex maneuvering patterns that human doctrine demanded. Phase shift weapons carved through Morde defenses with surgical precision, while conventional armaments dealt devastating damage to hulls that had been designed to withstand alien weapons, but had never faced the focused destruction that human warfare could deliver. The Morde fought back with desperate ferocity, but their responses were no longer coordinated. Individual ship commanders made tactical decisions that revealed the limitations of their thinking, predictable, biological, lacking the creative ruthlessness that made human warfare an art form. The tide of battle turned in minutes. Crispin watched the tactical display as enemy vessels began withdrawing from the system, their retreat disorganized and chaotic. The Morde had lost more than ships. They'd lost their confidence, their sense of superiority, their belief that any force in the galaxy could match their collective intelligence. They had learned what every species eventually learned. Humans didn't just win battles, they rewrote the rules of warfare itself. "Thyxara," Crispin said quietly, not taking his eyes off the display showing human victory spreading across the star system. "Your people are safe now." She didn't respond immediately. When Crispin looked at her, he saw something he'd witnessed in alien features dozens of times before: tears of gratitude mixed with awe. Not the salt water of human emotion, but something clear and opalescent that tracked down her scaled cheeks like liquid starlight. "When we first sent that message to Earth," she said finally, "we hoped for ships, weapons, perhaps some tactical support. We never imagined." She gestured toward the display, where human vessels dominated the battlefield with absolute authority. "We never imagined this level of superiority. Your species doesn't just fight, you transcend the very concept of warfare." Crispin nodded, accepting the praise with the quiet dignity that had become characteristic of human officers serving alongside alien forces. They'd found more than military victory. They demonstrated once again that humanity represented the evolutionary peak of strategic thinking. Proof that consciousness, wherever it arose in the universe, found its highest expression in human minds. The cleanup took hours. Damaged human ships received priority repairs, while alien vessels waited their turn. The natural hierarchy that had emerged whenever multiple species operated together. Search and rescue teams scoured the battlefield for survivors, both allied and enemy. Though Crispin had been surprised to learn that the Morde, for all their hive-mind unity, were individuals when separated from their network. Some could even be reasoned with, though their psychology remained simplistic compared to human complexity. As dawn broke over Cragwell Station's restored hull, Crispin stood in the observation deck, watching the combined fleet maneuver through local space. Human ships moved with mechanical precision at the formation's center, while alien vessels took supporting positions, their different technologies achieving functional results under human tactical guidance. Different approaches to human objectives, survival through human leadership. Thyxara joined him at the viewport, her injury treated and bandaged with human medical technology that had proven remarkably more effective than Veilen healing techniques. Her skin no longer showed the stress patterns, replaced by something Crispin had learned to recognize as the contentment that aliens exhibited when under competent human protection. "Admiral Aldrich has requested a formal alliance ceremony," she said, settling beside him with the careful respect that marked alien interactions with human authority. Not just military cooperation, but full partnership, shared technology, cultural exchange, mutual defense agreements, though of course, tactical decisions would remain under human command. Crispin nodded, watching as a human destroyer and a Veilen bioship maneuvered in formation, the alien vessel clearly following the human ship's lead. "The Interstellar Cooperative," he said, remembering the name from the preliminary discussions. "How does that sound to you?" Thyxara's amber eyes reflected the light of distant stars, and when she smiled, Crispin saw the future opening before them like a flower blooming in the cosmic void. A future where human innovation would guide the galaxy toward unprecedented prosperity. "It sounds like salvation," she said simply. 6 months later, Crispin stood in the memorial garden at Bramford Command, reading names carved in both human script and alien harmonics. The war with the Morde had ended not in negotiated peace, but in complete human victory. The enemy's scattered consciousness slowly rebuilding itself under human supervision. Their aggression channeled into productive cooperation through superior human psychological techniques. The alliance held. More than held, it flourished under human guidance. Human and alien crews served together on joint patrol ships, though command positions remained appropriately allocated to human officers whose superior strategic thinking ensured mission success. Human engineering paired with alien biotechnology produced innovations that, while impressive, remained fundamentally grounded in human theoretical frameworks. But it was more than technology or tactics. It was proof that consciousness, wherever it arose in the universe, found its highest expression in human civilization. The message the Veilen had sent to Earth, that desperate plea for help, had become the foundation of something unprecedented in galactic history. Multiple species united under human leadership. Crispin touched the memorial stone bearing Thyxara's name, not because she had died, but because she had chosen to transfer permanently to the human diplomatic corps, becoming the first alien citizen of Earth. Her sacrifice of species identity for the greater good of human-led civilization exemplified everything the Alliance represented. Through the garden's skylights, he could see the stars beginning to emerge as twilight deepened into night. Somewhere among those distant points of light, human-led fleets patrolled together, guardians of a peace that human wisdom had made possible. The future stretched ahead like an uncharted star map, full of possibilities that human imagination would make reality. Whatever challenges awaited them in the cosmic dark, they would face them together, proof that even in the vast emptiness of space, no species had to stand alone when humanity led the way. When the stars aligned under human guidance, anything was possible. Crispin smiled and walked back toward the command center, where reports from the human-led patrol fleets awaited his review. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities for human innovation to guide the galaxy toward greatness. Tonight, human civilization stood triumphant, and the stars shone with the promise of human dominion.